Welcome back, and we have the honor and privilege to meet filmmaker and entrepreneur, Mr. Micah Sparks. How you doing today, Micah?
Oh, I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
You bet. Glad to have you. We met each other a number of months ago, and I know you're working on a lot of projects, and you're a businessman. But tell us what you got going. What's your gig all about?
Well, my gig all about is I've started producing movies out of Sacramento. I live here in Sacramento, but I'm down in L.A. quite a bit, of course, and really all over the country. So I've just basically I've done 2 movies, and now I'm working on my 3rd, and then I'm also working on another deal where I might be putting together 3 or 4 a year. So
now your first 2 movies had big stars in them, have big stars in them. Tell us about making those movies.
Yeah, so 4 Minute Mile is the first movie I did, and my lead actress to mother. Well, 4 Minute Mile is similar to a Karate Kid movie in that it's inspirational sports drama.
Yeah, very motivational movie, right?
Very motivational, like a Rudy or a Karate Kid. But it's similar. The kid is, instead of being the young boy, he's a 19-year-old runner instead of a teenage Karate Kid, and it's edgier, kind of like the 8 Mile Eminem film. And but it is the coach and the runner, leaning on each other to solve their personal demons and kind of reach farther than they could have reached by themselves. So we put that together. I have a partner, Howard Bird, who we decided we wanted to make a movie, and this was our first foray into it. We actually started with a horror film, which I think every producer kind of starts with because they're inexpensive, but I really don't want to produce horror. But then in all of that, we started reading scripts from, calling people, hey, you got a script. And then we read 4 Minute Mile, and it just really spoke to kind of what we were going through. We're a couple of young guys to the industry anyways, and we attached to the script and ended up optioning the script. And then he and I kind of went around raising money from friends, family, and investors, and got enough together to, I think it ended up a $6 million budget in the end. Yeah, we had Kim Basinger.
Basinger, which is motivational too. Yeah.
And I got a kiss and a hug.
That'll way to go.
That was in the contract.
So then you jumped on to, you did Criminal Activities with John Travolta as well.
Yeah, that was the second one. Then we produced Criminal Activities, and that had Dan Stevens, who's in Downtown Abbey. It had Michael Pitt, who's Boardwalk Empire, had Rob Brown, who was in Finding Forrester, and then Chris Abbott, who is in Girls, which was kind of a cable show. But those 4 up-and-coming guys are kind of the ones that everybody's looking at. But so we had John, and then those 4, and that was a crime, what's called a crime drama genre, and which is actually appealing worldwide. And you learn as you go along these things. It's a crime drama. So it's 4 guys kidnap another guy to pay off a debt to a loan shark. The loan shark is John, and things go awry, of course, as they're holding the guy. So it's a fun ride. That's out on. You can buy it on demand on Comcast, Direct, all those, and I think it just showed up on Cinemax, I heard. So look for it, Criminal Activities with John Travolta.
Nice. Now, Howard Bird is your partner on these films? Is that right?
Some of them.
Some of them. Okay.
Yeah. Producing's a weird animal, in especially independent producing, because you make alliances, and we have an investment partner that we are linked through, that we continue to do movies through, and we're working on one through that group. But we're also doing independent films. Independently. So he's done one without me, and then I'm doing one right now that I don't think he's going to be involved in. And then he asked me for the last one if I wanted to be involved in, but the other guy involved in it, I didn't want to.
Yeah. You got to have the right. You want to be, especially when you're talking about doing something, a project like this. There's a lot of ups and downs. You got to be a team.
A team, yeah. And some people, that's just life is too short. So that's why I told Howard. I said my life is too short to deal with this guy. So he can do it. He's got he's always got a smile on his face, but I didn't want to do it. So
now, how is the movie business different than traditional business?
Well, the L.A. movie business is, they always. Here, I'll tell you a joke. Here's a typical. two people are sitting in the Four Seasons bar in Beverly Hills, an agent and his client. And the agent is going on and on and on and on. And his client says, I got to stop you. You're lying. You're lying to my face right now. And the agent looks at him and he goes, I know, but hear me out. Okay. That is kind of like, you can only.
That's part of the thing is you just got to tell people, or it happens. People got to tell people what they want to hear in order to advance the ball.
Yeah. And even more so, or maybe I'm not as aware in other businesses, everybody's really out for themselves in LA. I mean, if you're at the top of your game, you have to protect the people, of course, that you're working with. But and you just have to keep in mind that everybody's view of how they want things to go benefits them, and it may not align. So the big thing that I do in all my partnerships with Howard and with the other partners I'm getting involved with is we align our goals so we all are trying to reach to the same point. So whatever that might be. So it's kind of complicated, but if it benefits us to take the movie this way, we both have the same benefit.
Yeah.
Then you don't worry about your back, because if their interests are aligned with your interests 100%, then you know that they're trying to get their interests served, which also serves you. So I'm really big into aligning the interests.
Aligning interests here. That is a similarity to what happens in, I think, our small businesses as well, Micah. When we come back, I want to share a little bit more about your story. We talked a little bit about creativity on Facebook Live. But we're going to dive deeper into that and what's really shaped your philosophy as an author and as a filmmaker. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, streaming live broadcast and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com. Welcome back. We are here with filmmaker and entrepreneur Micah Sparks, and we were talking on Facebook Live during the break and sharing a little bit more about the personal side of Micah. Now, Micah, you had some tragedy in your life, and how has that tragedy shaped your perspective?
When I was in my early 20s, the tragedy you're talking about, of course, is my mother got in a horseback riding accident and died, when I was just out of college. And, I had never even been to a funeral up until that point in my life. And she was kind of the hub of the wheel of our family. And when that was kind of taken away from our family, we were kind of left devastated and had to learn to support each other and rely on each other. So it was a dramatic thing that happened. Then about a couple of years later, my sister gets a brain tumor. And I was her advocate for that and took her through surgeries and radiation. And then as soon as she got clear, about a year and a half later, then my dad ended up in a head-on collision out of Reno, and he died on the side of the road. He calls me. He called me just before he died and left a message on my voicemail, and then died on the way in the ambulance to the hospital in Reno there. And that knocked us back another step. And then about a year later, my sister's brain tumor came back, and she was younger than me, and she ended up dying. So within a very, very short spate of time, basically everybody but my brother, who's Micah Sparks, the writer, and I had everybody that were close to us just pass away in dramatic fashion. So it made me reassess life and value and what's important. Of course, and that sounds kind of like trite and simple, but I don't sweat the little things much at all. And I don't take business. If business deals go bad, it's difficult and that's part of life. But the reality is the people around you that you love and the relationships you have, and it also brought me closer to my Christian faith, which is. In my early 20s, I was kind of up in the air whether or not it was for me, but I realized that you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything, and that's kind of what I went into.
Well, now you were the oldest. Nicholas was the middle child, and then I'm sure that had a bonding effect and a strengthening of that relationship. I know you guys took a trip together.
Yeah. We were always close. We're only a year apart. I'm Nick's older brother by a year.
Bella Vista guys, by the way.
Whoop, whoop, go Broncos. That's right. And it did have an effect because the way we related, at least a lot was through my mother because, he was going to school back east. And what it did is force us to really work on becoming good brothers together. And we take pragmatic steps to spend 2 to 3 events a year together. Like we do a fitness camp every year for a month. We'll do a gambling junket to Las Vegas for a week.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and then we'll do something else, and then we make sure we call each other once a week, and we just take the extra effort that we didn't take before. So made us value each other and try a little harder for sure.
Now, Nicholas obviously is a famous writer, the Notebook and several other big name books that have become movies. 2 very creative guys, very successful brothers. Mm-hmm. Did you guys ever fight as kids? You're only a year apart.
We did fight, and I was older and stronger, and I could always devastate him, but and still can to this day. He'd probably say no, but he's a black belt. He's actually a tough guy.
Oh shoot!
And strong as an ox, man. He's built like bull.
Just like Tom.
Yeah. We fought until there was an epiphany in my life where I decided I'm either against my brother or with my brother. It was very early on. I was 12. He was 11. We just had a major fist fight in the house, and he went running, and running being that's how he blew off steam. And then I screamed after him, get the bleep out of here, rah rah rah. And my dad came out and. He was upset and scolded me, and he said, he's the only brother you'll ever have, so you take care of him. And I was 12, and I remember it just hit me, and I thought, okay, from now on, I'll take care of him. And we never fought since.
Wow.
Not to say we don't have disagreements, but we don't fight. And from then on, he was the annoying little brother prior to that, and from then on, I decided he's in my group, and he's one of my guys, and so.
Wow. Yeah, my brother and I had something somewhat similar when we were about 11 and 12. I'm a year older. I'm a middle child, but he's the youngest. And we shared a room. We were fighting one day, and it kind of starting as play fight, and then it got serious, and I kneed him in the head. I kneed my little brother, who was about 10, in the head and knocked him out.
Ooh.
He was down. I mean, he wasn't moving. I thought I killed him, and I swore to myself, I will never fight my brother again, which is also smart because he became a pretty good wrestler and can kick the crap out of me, no problem now. But in a similar situation, it's like, hey, you know what? Yeah. You love somebody. Why would you?
Yeah.
You start getting 11, 12, 13, you could hurt somebody.
Oh, yeah. And that was my epiphany, and I stuck to it since then. And, from then on, I bring him into my group of friends, and, we've always had each other's back, which is a good thing. Yeah. And then all the death of the rest of the family just even forced us closer together,
Yeah.
So.
I was one of the theme of the show is really what toughens you up, and beyond the family tragedy, are there things that have happened in your life that have really kind of toughened you up and made you who you are today?
Well, yeah. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I've done many things in my life. The first 10 years of my life, I was in commercial real estate and worked on, with national tenants, small tenants, regional tenants, and you're failing at 2 out of 3 of the deals you're working on. 3 out of 4 deals are failures, but 1 succeeds. So you learn that you don't look back at what you failed on; just keep pressing forward to what you might succeed on. That was my first start, and then the next 10 years after that, out of commercial real estate, I realized that people who own businesses make a lot of money consistently rather than having to go deal to deal. So I ended up buying a business that was similar to a California Closets, a home franchise that does, closet organizers, garage cabinets, home office systems, and opened up 6 franchises up and down California over that 10-year housing boom, and ended up opening and then developing and then selling each one of them. So I ended up selling all 6 of them.
Oh, that sounds like a success story there.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Big time.
That was a great run, and then the housing boom ended, of course, and I had 1 left by that time and sold it even for a profit from what I started it for. But at that point, I sold that, and I was unemployed because the housing boom had ended, and I didn't want to go back into commercial real estate, and that's when Nick and I decided to write the book we wrote, which is 3 Weeks with My Brother. So,
and you changed careers. You basically pivoted into a whole different genre or a whole different occupation. Wow, turning failure into, or at tough times, it's not a failure. You had some great success, but turning some of those tougher times like the economic crisis and completely pivoting, that is entrepreneurial. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited. Coming up in the show, we're going to have Seamus McClure, the founder of Milkman Toner Company. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, streaming from Sports 1140, KHTK, and streaming live podcast on YouTube at HateyBiz.com. All right, welcome back. And, today's show kind of a few takeaways, just thinking about where our fight comes from, where our inner toughness actually is built. And, it's built through tough times. I think tough times so many times strengthen us. But isn't our job as a quarterback, as the business leader, as the entrepreneur, isn't our job kind of to rally the team to fight together?
No question.
Right? You got, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a quarterback, you want to rally people to fight together. And if they fight, if you can be, if any of us can be the guy that is attractive enough to help collect people that have the same beliefs as you, as us, we're really drawn together. And that, I think that attraction, that it can be something worth fighting for. And I think so many times that we, as when we're alone, you're not nearly as strong as you are when you've got some people that are fighting alongside you. And I think that that's the essence of entrepreneurship, is who you have, what your ability is to bring on the team to build something and to fight. And that collective toughness is really the differentiator when we're trying to build a business. I'm here with Tom and Marcus, and we talk about toughness and where it comes from. And I mean, so many times, and we talked about America's youth a little bit with Seamus and how he's investing into the high schools and that kind of thing. And there's kind of a sissification happening in America's youth today. I mean, ninth place ribbons are okay in some situations, and I think that's a challenge for us.
Well, it's most definitely it's a challenge, and we actually covered the sissification of the American male, so to speak, in an earlier show. But it really, really has affected the way people approach things anymore, because they're afraid of getting in trouble, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, personally, I don't think so. You're a very strict guy. You're a very walk the line kind of guy. I was brought up by a guy like that, so that's how I raised my children. Marcus, you're raising Hunter the exact same way. I mean, these guys are going to be, my kids. Obviously, your son Marcus and your daughter Ashley, they're leaders in the community, and they're leaders within the businesses that they're working within right now. It's necessary. It's necessary. I mean, weakness really has no place in business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also thinking, I feel like you watch the news and, read books and articles. People have lost their tenacity to fight for what they believe in. And I say we try to get that back. And I love that's what we're doing here with Entrepreneurs Unlimited, is opening up that as a forum to help people build something great and actually go for what they believe in.
It makes you think about all the times, too, where people have been misjudged. I think entrepreneurs in many situations, they're misjudged. In other words, hey, you're the small business guy. Okay, you never know who you're dealing with when you're in a fight, right? You see a small business guy, or you see somebody who is less intimidating, and you might misjudge that guy. Marcus, you ever been misjudged?
Once or twice, absolutely.
Yeah, you never know who you're messing with. You never really know that by looking on the outside, because the real fight, doesn't it come from the inside, Tom?
Without doubt. And it's those things that shaped us as human beings early in the program, right? And we talked about your fight with Paul. Micah was talking about, and I apologize, I just said Micah, it's Micah, was talking about what a terrible tragedy to lose your mother. Your sister has a brain tumor. You get her through that. Next thing you know, your father dies on the side of a road, and then he loses his sister. That's perspective changing stuff, and it will realign the way you look at things for the rest of your life.
Yeah, he now does not sweat the small stuff as much.
Right. And we can learn from that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that Micah said that I think is interesting. Seamus and Micah, I think both shared this about business partners and having the right people around you. That sometimes 3 is, there's somebody left out. There's an odd man out, and it kind of makes me think back to, I'm going to relate this back to business a little bit and business partners. So there's times when you really have to make a shift, like what Micah did. He shifted all the way into the business of making movies from, he was doing closets, right?
I mean, what a departure that is.
And that's a major decision, and the economic crisis created him to have to completely do like a 180 in his business career, and we had that as well with our video stores, right? As you build up, we're up to 12 video stores. There's the 3 brothers, right? My older brother Byron, me as the middle brother, and then my younger brother, Paul. And the 3 of us, we had these video stores, and next to every store, there was eventually a Blockbuster and a Hollywood Video. And on the horizon, you had cable TV coming, and you had the internet, and actually, cable TV was already in existence. Redbox. You had all this technology looming, right? Even social media, even the stuff that's happening now, all of this really killed the video store. So I can remember we were in a lot of debt. We brought in Byron, and Byron was really good at helping us get financing. He was the older brother, the MBA guy, and he was able to help us get some financing. And we got ourselves into quite a bit of debt, and we had bought out my parents, and we saw the looming changes coming in entertainment. And what do? And I think it froze us, right? The 3 brothers were sort of frozen, and we had a little bit of trouble making decisions on how we're going to pivot, what are we going to do, and really, I think there were, my older brother Byron, I think he being the smarter one, and the older one. We had 2 straight A brothers, and then me. We were challenged because we weren't aligned in our thinking, right? We had the 3 brothers, and so Paul and I. We bought Byron out. We got into some more debt. We bought Byron out. Now it's the 2 little brothers, 27, 28 years old. And what are you going to do? We were in a ton of debt, and, a big brother, Byron, who got us all the financing and everything.
Well, I was going to ask you, though. Yeah. Wait a minute. You launched the smart one?
Paul was actually a smart one, too. I still had one smart guy left, luckily. So it was me and Paul. And, Byron gone. But Paul and I were willing to fight together alongside one another. We had all of a sudden the hesitation and the what are we going to do, and oh no, Blockbuster's going to beat us up, and all that went away. It was like, what are we going to do? And we sort of I learned some lessons during that time. It's like, if you want to go into business with somebody, have a real fighter alongside you. A guy like Paul that is willing to roll up his sleeves, fight alongside you. He knows everything about you, and he still loves you. Have a guy like Paul next to you, a real fighter. I was fortunate enough to have that. And that, my friends, was probably the biggest decision of my life in business, is helping Paul to buy Byron out, and the 2 of us doing it together, side by side, as one. And I think that was a huge lesson. I think the second lesson is if you stumble, sometimes you just got to laugh and break into a jog. Because, in the video industry, we didn't know what we were going to do, right? So you have Blockbuster, Hollywood, cable, the internet. It's all looming down on us. And we decided to loan this guy some money, and a lot of money for us. We drew down on some lines of credit. We loaned a guy some money. He couldn't pay us back, ends up filing bankruptcy. And so all of a sudden, we are, instead of getting paid back our money, we get this little company that he has. And we took a hold of that, and we smiled. And we said, this was a hardware company, and they sold a little bit of security cameras, but mainly pro video stuff. Big customers are the Army Depot and McClellan and KCRA. It's videotapes, hardware. Anyway, we took a stumble. The guy couldn't pay us back, and we got his company. And then the Army Depot closed, right? McClellan closed. KCRA quit buying blank tape, right? That's no longer anything. And we pivoted into security cameras, wouldn't you know? And so we hired our closest friends, Paul's buddies from high school, my buddies from high school, Todd Flowers, my brother-in-law, a bunch of other buddies. And we picked up the telephone, and we started becoming security camera salesmen. We almost did what Micah did when we completely pivoted from video stores. We gradually wound down our video stores. We squeezed every bit of profit out of those video stores, wound them down nice and gracefully, and we focused on building our security business. And I really think that the next lesson I learned is really that some battles are really unwinnable, right? There was no way to win the battle, Micah, to win the closet battle during the 2008 financial crisis. There was no way to win the video store battle. It was unwinnable for an independent video store. Even Blockbuster and Hollywood are no longer around today. Sometimes you do have to pivot, and you gotta go ahead and say, I'm going to lose that battle, but I'm going to win the war. I'm going to win the war. Paul and I built the security camera company with our buddies, and we didn't change our goals in life. We just pivoted to something else, and we made an effort to win the war. So I would just sum it up by just saying that this is a quote that I remember from a long time ago. Mr. Mark Twain said this: "It's not the size of the dog in the fight that matters most. It's the size of the fight in the dog." And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. Let's win the battle. Let's get our friends together. Let's team up and let's go. Let's beat the demons that are inside of ourselves. Let's beat the doubts. Beat the reasons why it shouldn't work. Figure out the reasons why it can work. And let's fight to win. Never above you. Never below you.
Always by your side.